Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about a total solar eclipse phenomena that is going to be observed today, that is on 8th of April. So what is special about today's eclipse and what are different types of solar eclipses? How do these celestial phenomena occur? That is what we are going to discuss in great detail. So first of all, to give you the context of the topic which we are discussing, today a total solar eclipse will be observed across the North American continent in countries such as US, Canada as well as Mexico. Now this type of solar eclipse is obviously a very rare event for any particular spot, that means for any particular region or place on the earth. And according to the Royal Museum's Greenwich, once a place on earth witnesses a total solar eclipse, it takes almost 400 years for that same place to again witness a total solar eclipse. That means in the regions where we are going to observe total solar eclipse today, again we can say after 400 years, people of these regions will be able to witness this phenomena second time. So before going into details about what is total solar eclipse, let us try to understand what is solar eclipse first. So in simple terms, we can define solar eclipse as a celestial phenomena which occurs when the moon comes in between the earth and the sun. That is when the moon blocks the light of the sun that is coming toward the earth. Depending on how it is inclined with the earth's orbital plane, sometimes it blocks the light fully, sometimes it blocks the light partially. So depending on that, it casts a huge shadow, that is moon, that is casting a huge shadow on some parts of the earth, and that region of the earth is where we witness the eclipse like phenomena. If we try to understand this from the diagram, we can look at here. This is our sun and here is our earth, and moon is now lying in between sun and the earth. Due to this, the light that is coming from the sun is incident on the face of the moon, which is on the other side of the earth. And due to this region, this entire area which is covered by the moon, that region will see the shadow of moon falling on the earth's surface. Within the shadow, we can see total two types of shadows we can see from the diagram here. First is the core shadow, where the darkness is much more greater intense or is having much more greater intensity, that is called as umbra, that is also defined as shadow's full body core. On the other hand, the outer margins where the shadow is falling in the earth but it is not so much intense, that is called as penumbra, and it is also defined as partially shaded outer region of the moon or the moon shadow. So that is how we can explain the the solar eclipse. Now solar eclipse overall can also be classified into four major types. These are the total solar eclipse, the partial solar eclipse, the annular solar eclipse and the hybrid solar eclipse. Now let us try to understand each of these one by one. So first of all, if we talk about the total solar eclipse, it happens when the moon blocks the sun entirely. The areas in the center of moon's shadow at the time witness a total solar eclipse, and the sky darkens and people who are in the path of total solar eclipse can that time get a glimpse of sun's corona as is shown in this particular image. Generally the corona, which is the outermost region of the sun, is invisible to us, but it is only during a total solar eclipse we are able to see the glimpse of the sun's corona, and corona of sun is very important layer. And also it is a mysterious layer because at the surface of sun temperature is around 6000 degrees Celsius, but on the outer margins, outer regions of the sun, that is in the corona of the sun, temperature reaches almost 1 million degrees Celsius. So why there is sudden rise of temperature in corona, that we have not been able to still find, and that is why it is also referred as coronal mystery. It is to solve this mystery, the ISRO as well as NASA has sent two missions. One, the ISRO has launched Aditya 11 mission, and second, the NASA, which has launched Parker Solar Probe 2 years back. They are both will try to understand the mystery of the coronal layers of sun itself. Now coming back to the type of eclipse, we have annular solar eclipse. Annular solar eclipse happen when the moon passes in the front of the sun but is at or near the farthest point from the earth. In that case, moon covers the sun in such a way that only the periphery of the sun remain visible, that we can see from this particular diagram. Moon has completely covered the sun, only the outermost part of sun, however, is still visible from the earth. The third is partial solar eclipse. That is when the moon does not block the sun entirely, it blocks just a part of the sun, giving it a crescent kind of shape. As we can see from this image here, this shaded area is the moon and this area that we see is the sun that is visible from the earth. So, sun takes a kind of crescent shape. So, this is also the most common type of solar eclipse that happens very frequently. And last, that is the rarest of all event, is the hybrid solar eclipse. Now, hybrid solar eclipse is witnessed when an eclipse shifts between the annular eclipse and the total eclipse as the shadow of moon moves across the globe. In this case, some part of the world sees a total solar eclipse, while the other part of the world will observe an annular solar eclipse, both of which we already have discussed. And this is somehow we can describe or represent the occurrence of hybrid solar eclipse. Now, the question that comes into mind, that how often does phenomena like solar eclipse take place and how often can we see such kind of phenomena from the earth? So, obviously, if we try to understand, we have discussed in the beginning that solar eclipse occurs whenever moon moves between the sun and the earth. Now, obviously, a solar eclipse is witnessed only during the new moon, because it is only when the moon is between sun and earth, we are not able to see the moon from the earth's surface. And we know that since moon revolves around the earth in almost 29.5 days, a new moon occurs about 29.5 days on the earth. However, this does not mean that at every new moon you will observe the phenomena of solar eclipse. That means if at every moon eclipse would have happened, then every month we would have observed eclipse. However, it takes place only between 2 to 5 times in a year. Moon does, and the reason behind why it happens so, why we do not have eclipse during every new moon, if we try to understand this, the answer is simply because of the reason that the moon's orbit is not same as the earth's orbit around the sun. In other way, what we can say, that moon does not orbit earth in the same plane as the earth orbits the sun. And actually, if you look at from this image here, the moon's orbit around the earth is tilted at around 5-degree angle from the earth's orbit around the sun. In other way, we can also say it that the moon's orbital plane is at 5-degree inclination from the earth's orbital plane. As a result of this, most of the time when the moon is in between the sun and the earth, its shadow is either too high or too low and it does not fall on the earth. And if the shadow does not fall on the earth, obviously eclipse will not be visible from the earth. If we try to understand it more clearly, we can look from this diagram here. Basically, if you compare the moon's orbit around the earth and the earth's orbit around the sun, we can see that only 2 places are there where the moon is intersecting, or moon's orbit is intersecting the earth's orbit, and these 2 places are called as nodes. And only when the moon is situated at any of these nodes, the occurrences of solar eclipse can happen, or probability of solar eclipse rises. Now, today's eclipse is a kind of total solar eclipse. So, let us try to discuss about these as well. So, why total solar eclipse is so rare? That is what we try to understand here. So, while there can be between 2 to 5 solar eclipses every year, as we have discussed, total eclipses only happen about once every 18 months or so. And this is because a total eclipse is visible only if one is standing in the umbra region. We have discussed in the beginning that when the moon's shadow is falling on the earth, it makes two kind of shade. One, the core region, that is called as umbra, and one that is the outer periphery, that is called as penumbra. So, umbra, the other part of shadow that is called as penumbra, is not as dark as the umbra. And if you calculate it mathematically, if you calculate it from the geometry, we know that the umbral shadow is very small. And if you compare it with the area of the earth's surface, it covers less than 1% of the globe. Not only that, we know that even if you talk about the entire earth, 70% of earth is water, that is ocean, and the remaining land, almost half of the remaining land is still uninhabited. That means even if the moon shadow is falling on less than 1% of earth's area, it is very less probability, or probability is very low, that someone might be residing in those areas. It is due to this reason only very few people will get to see a total eclipse at a time. In other way, for total eclipse to be seen, the moon's umbral shadow, which obviously occupies a very small part of the earth. It should fall in such regions of the earth where we are having human population, and that is why it is quite rare when a total solar eclipse happens and a lot of people get to see it, as it will happen today. So that is all about this particular video. I hope you understood about the concept of eclipses, solar eclipses, and different types of eclipses, and the uniqueness about today's eclipse, that is a total solar eclipse. Thank you very much.